Hi, it's Cindy and Jan on the back roads, and this video is a little different. If you've been following us, you know that we've been friends for 60 years, and this is a story of friendship, even in the worst of times. Hi, it's Cindy and Jan on the back roads, and today we're going to talk to you about something that we experienced together. And
that would be Jan's diagnosis with colon rectal cancer,
Yep.
which was very rare. Not very many cases like she had seen.
I had a weird tumor, and I was diagnosed. Cindy went with me. I went to the surgeon. Actually,
for some reason, I insisted on going with her, not knowing that things were going to turn out the way they were. We had been on a trip thinking it was something different, and when we got back, she had an appointment, and it did not go well.
Nope, he said, this is cancer, and it's large, and it looks aggressive, and he sent us for blood work, and we cried for a while, and then we did something kind of unusual for somebody newly diagnosed with cancer. And I know this is going to sound horrible, but there's no other way to describe it.
I know, and it's something that we had always talked about doing. So we went to Starbucks and we got our chai tea lattes, and from there we went to...
Well, we saw it right there. It was in the back of the parking lot.
Right. And from there, we went to Woodland Cemetery.
And we said, oh, look, there's Woodland Cemetery. It's on our bucket list. So we drove to the cemetery. It was a beautiful fall day. Leaves were coming down.
It was. The trees were absolutely gorgeous. And it wasn't because it was just something that we had always wanted to do. It wasn't to be gory or morbid.
Because I wasn't planning on dying.
And she even went back to work the same day after she got diagnosis. So she's been the fighter, and here we are 5.5 years almost.
Yep, and I'm soon going to get cut loose from my main oncologist. My radiology oncology is keeping me for another year, but for right now I'm going to be, I think in end of May or early June, I'll be cut loose after my 5 years. Thrilled to death to be alive. Didn't expect to live. My first surgeon told me 18 months to 2 years if I was lucky. I fired him. He sent me a nasty letter, told me don't come back to him like I would. I'd never have gone back to him. And then I started building my team, which anybody that is diagnosed, I highly suggest the first thing you do is buy waterproof mascara, because you're going to need it. And then start building your team. And I was extremely fortunate that I had a fabulous oncologist, Dr. Jim Sabiers, and he sent me to Dr. Sharuvu, the radiology oncologist, and Dr. Guy, my GYN, sent me to Dr. Halan, the surgeon. Had an A team all the way, and I credit them for me being here.
Exactly.
And
you couldn't ask for a more caring oncologist as Jim was, because we would be going to Michigan for vacation, and he was already on vacation in Florida.
Sitting on the beach.
And he would see her scan come across, and he would call us right then and there and say, hey, it's great.
Yeah.
We high-fived in the car, and, but I mean, just to think that he was on vacation and still took the time to call her as a patient is, to me, that's A1. Yeah.
After my first scan, after my treatment, he called and said, it looks good. There was one little tiny spot that lit up, and he said, radiology said it's nothing to worry about. They weren't that concerned. Well, my surgeon said, I'm going to trust but verify. So she did the biopsy, and it was malignant. So they removed that, and I was not eligible for any more radiation because I'd had my lifetime supply to my pelvis, because I was a stage 3 with extensive metastasis, and it did not respond to any chemo. So he said, we're just going to have to trust that it's not going to come back, and if it does, we'll treat when it comes back. And I had total faith in him, and I kind of put that on my mind and kind of went on living my life. And Cindy was with me all the way, and the fact that I became a blonde is her fault, because I was always a dark brunette. And the day we went to get wigs, I had said, I can't do this. I mean, there were all these bald women walking around, and I said, just go pick out a wig. And she brings me a wig. I'm like, a blonde? I am not a blonde.
But
And
she was a blonde, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful wig, and it's about the color your hair is now.
it's about this
and,
color.
I was kind of jealous.
Yeah.
It was really a pretty
I had
wig.
women follow me around asking me who cuts your hair? I'm like, I never had that many compliments of my own hair, but the wig had a lot of compliments. So Cindy went with me to everything, went with me to chemo class and radiation class, took me to all my treatments.
We did exercise together, water exercise. I learned to crochet, which I had not done since I was a child. So
Yeah, I started crocheting as therapy so I wouldn't be so obsessed with the cancer and the treatment. I wanted to make my son's Afghans in case I didn't make it. And I made a lot of Afghans. I think I lost count at 40 some. And then Cindy started crocheting, our other friends started crocheting.
yeah,
And the rest is history. And
it's not for old ladies.
it is not for old ladies. In fact, they're awesome. You know, they make awesome gifts and awesome
They do.
blankets.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the rest basically is kind of history. I'm
It is.
hoping to get cut loose here. I had a little snafu here this winter, and so he kept me for a few more months. I get another scan soon, and hopefully that will set me free.
exactly.
But I couldn't have done it without this girl, and afterwards we're like, how are we going to do this, you know? And afterwards we're like, we're going to go live our life. And
yeah,
before I got cancer, we used to say at 60, when we hit our 60s, we're like, we only have 10 years of good health left. Let's go do something. Well, then when I got cancer, I'm like, it just got shortened. We're going to have to live quick.
yeah.
And now that she's 70 and I'm soon to be 69, we still say we have 10 years of good health left. I don't know about our brains.
Let's
We're
not
getting
go
a little,
there.
we're getting a little loony as we get older. Yeah.
It is all good.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all
So-
fun.
Yeah.
So we've known each other since we were fourth grade. And so when you're diagnosed, you immediately want that cancer out. But it takes time to build your team, to go through all the diagnostics. Some of the funny things, remember the day they sent me to the maternity?
Yes.
Yeah, they're like, you need to go to the maternity lab and have this done. And I got there and they're like, oh, no, you're not, this is for young people. I'm like, this is where they told me to come. No. Went back to regular radiology. They sent me back to maternity.
Yeah.
The doctor came in and said, you're the oldest patient I think I've ever seen in here. But
That was Dr. Guy.
no, that was the radiologist down there.
Oh, the doctor,
Yeah, but
yeah.
Dr. Guy's the one that sent me
Okay,
there.
yeah.
So had great docs, and I totally thank them and God for me still being alive at this age. And
Yeah, and I've always said that if I were to get something like that, I sure hope I can have her A-team right there with me, because they were absolutely wonderful.
yeah.
And, Dr. Saviors just took so much time when he explained everything to her the very first time she met him.
Turns out we used to work together years ago,
And he did not know that.
he didn't know it. I used some word, and he said, well, do you ever live in Cleveland? He immediately picked up on that word. Turns out that we actually knew each other when we were young, 40-some years before that.
Yeah.
So it was an experience. I recommend everybody get a colonoscopy. I never even considered myself a possibility of having colon cancer, because I had had a colonoscopy a year and a half before I was diagnosed, but it was missed. And my tumor grew sideways. It didn't go up and down like you would expect it to. But
And I have a history of colon cancer in my family, so I get one. I get them every 2 years now. Before I was getting them every year because they did find a tumor. So I was lucky.
Benign. Yeah.
But I was still lucky that they found it, because my mother had passed. She was sick for 8 weeks, and that was it.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important that my children have already had their first colonoscopy, due for their second, so they're following through also.
Remember, not all cancers are pink. People think of women as having breast cancer, and they fear that. Actually, colon cancer is more deadly, and colon cancer doesn't usually have any symptoms until it's advanced. I had pressure, and I've been to the doctor a couple times, but I didn't have any classic symptoms until I had unbearable pain. That was my symptom. And at that point, I was a stage 3, almost a stage 4, and he said, well, at least you don't have a big metastatic lump in your groin. And I'm like, oh, yes, I do. It had popped up over that weekend.
Within like a weekend, yeah.
So I was on the verge of becoming a stage 4, so I'm very, very thankful to be alive. And I don't think without Dr. Sabier I would. He said to me, I've cured people worse than you. And, he's holding your life in his hands. So get your colonoscopy, spread the
Yep.
words.
Yep, and here's to you.
Yep,
and Dr.
here's to life.
Sagers.
And oh yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I think that's very important.
I think it's important too.
Yeah.
You can make it through. Going from a brunette to a blonde was kind of traumatic. And kind of one of the funny things that happened is I learned to do these like Jewish head wraps.
Yes, beautiful.
And women would literally chase us down. Like, ma'am, where'd you get that wrap? Cindy said, well, after you're done with this, we can start a business. I'm like, no, when I'm done with this baldness, I'm done. But they were pretty.
They were
Yeah,
beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
yeah. So you can learn too. They're on YouTube. Just look at the Jewish head wraps. They're fun to do.
Yeah.
They're warm too.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
See you guys.
Remember, get your colonoscopy. Tell your friends.
Bye.
Bye. Live life. I definitely recommend the waterproof mascara. That got me through. What follows are some photos and quotes from my cancer journey. It's important to remember that a lot of advances have been made in cancer, and cancer is a diagnosis. It does not necessarily mean it's a death sentence. I was a stage 3 on the verge of becoming a stage 4. I never thought I would live, but with today's technology, I not only lived, but I'm thriving. I did have a few things going through it. I walked with a cane for 1.5 years, and I finally got rid of that. And I got a gravelly voice from it, but small price to pay for life. Yes, it really did take 9 weeks and 4 oncologists after I was diagnosed. And this is my oncologist, Dr. Jim Sabiers. Love him dearly, would follow him anywhere. And Dr. Sharuvu, I'd follow her anywhere too. They were both fabulous. My surgeon was Dr. Halan, and she was wonderful too. This was my power port that I had put in. That's how you get your chemo. It's continuous. You go home with a belly bag, and you have cancer class. It's pretty terrifying. Had my hair cut short to make the fallout not so noticeable, and I absolutely hate short hair on me. This lovely lady had just gone through cancer treatment, so she was a big help to me. She took this picture of Cindy and I at Sephora right after I got my wig. This was another one of the chemos. I can't remember which one. And here's some of the head wraps that I did. You can learn to do those on YouTube, and they're very warm in the wintertime, so that was nice. And some funky glasses. If you're going to have chemo and radiation, you might as well have fun with the head wraps. And remember, there's always lipstick on a bad day. Halfway done with radiation was a big deal. I hated radiation. It was actually a lot harder on me than chemo. But the burns and everything that comes with it is a small price to pay for life. You have to keep your eye on the prize. I could not have done this without Cindy. When I was finally able to ditch the wig, my hairdresser colored my hair just like the wig. And my beloved cat, Dee Dwayne, was very supportive with me. And of course, my children were my main motivation to get me through this. I looked at their photos every single day and said to myself, I can do this. I am very blessed, grateful, and appreciative of living through this and given another chance at life. Remember, cancer is a diagnosis. It means you have a heck of a fight ahead. It does not mean it's a death sentence. Never lose hope, never give up. And remember, early detection saves lives.